right, everybody's favorite, well, not everybody, a lot of people's favorite, mean, stupid, wrong YouTube comments. I think this is number 19, installment 19. Let's get into it. Make some room on the bottom there. Here we go. Your half-ass attempt to get on the roster makes it clear that you did not want the gig. You send one email and then do nothing for 5 weeks. Don't call the poker room, don't check the website, nothing. Just one email to one guy you heard was doing the hiring. If you wanted the gig, you would have tried harder. This was about trying to get on the roster for the World Series of Poker circuit. First of all, the whole thing, and especially the yellow at the bottom, makes this guy sound like someone who's never tried to get a job in his life, which these are the types of people who leave comments like this. The big thing though was the blue, especially the word heard. Ironic, this guy chose to put it in all capital letters. By the way, I could read the lowercase letters also, but he chose to put them in all capital letters. As if in late December, because I sent that first email on December 22nd, as if in late December, when I'm in my parents' house and we're discussing the holiday menu and all the things we need to buy and cook, somehow the guy who hires for the March circuit stop for the World Series, that's just a conversation that naturally happens. No, it's not. It started in September. I didn't go into every single detail, but it started in September. I was in Council Bluffs. The World Series of Poker circuit stop was in Council Bluffs. Talked to someone who watches the videos, gave him a shout out, Ian, asked him for the contact information of the person who hired him for that stop. Also talked to someone who was working that stop, who I dealt with at Orleans. Also talked to another dealer there who I knew from MGM back in the day. Also talked to the person who worked for the World Series, not as a dealer, doing the online updates for the tournaments. So originally got the information from Ian, then talked to other people, corroborated the information, eventually contacted that woman who hires for that stop. She was very helpful. She said she hires for that stop, but not tons of other stops, a few Midwest stops. She said if I'm interested in the March circuit stop in Vegas, I would need to talk to someone else. She gave me the name of someone who hires for some stops in the western part of the US. Contacted that woman. Eventually that woman got back to me. She was also very helpful. She said she does hire for some stops in the western part of the US, but not the March stop in Vegas. She said she was hearing that was going to be totally in-house, and if I wanted to get on the roster, I would need to speak to someone. She didn't know exactly who, but someone who works in Las Vegas for Caesars. That one person would be in charge of all hiring. Spoke to someone who works in the poker industry in Vegas, and at one time in his life worked for a Caesars property. He got me the name of somebody, emailed that person, the email bounced right back to me. Used another email address, emailed that person, the email bounced right back to me. So I don't think that's the right person, and that guy must have like resigned or quit or gotten fired recently, if that's happening with his email address. Spoke to the person on the ground again, and he got the name of somebody else who turned out to be the person who was in charge of hiring, who I emailed in December and then twice in February. So yeah, it took about 3 months and talking to 7 people just to get the name of the person and the email address of the person who was in charge of hiring. It was a pretty slow process, but I was willing to start in September to try to get on a roster in March. But if this commenter believed all that, he wouldn't have a reason to be really mad this day. All right, from the shoe shine stand here in the hallway to the monorail. This one wasn't like really severe, just more like inconsistent, so I thought I'd add it. Let me read it here. As a dealer, I can say that number 1 doesn't bother me. Number 2 really doesn't bother me. It's my job. ... I took out some things in the middle because it was too long to fit on the page. What does annoy me? Rude players, bad tippers, or overly nice players who don't tip because their kindness is your tip. Those things, people, annoy me. So this was the first dealer pet peeve video, and he was saying some things that other dealers were saying annoy them. Don't annoy him. He says it's his job, which is really the only color here. Highlighted in black. It's my job. Weird, because the things he mentions after that that do annoy him, those things I would also put under the umbrella of it's your job. There are going to be rude players. There are going to be bad tippers. Like, that's just going to happen. When I was dealing at Orleans, not everyone's going to be the nicest person in the world. That's fine. I was ready for that. Also, the tips average, the pay averages. Like, I had, this one I mentioned, I had it down where I was taken out of the tournament lineup to deal cash. It took so long to fill the table. they were calling names and people were staying at the other games. Like they must have been on many lists, and it's like, no, they were sitting 2-5, and when they got called for 1-3, they said no, things like that. So they had to call a lot of names until we actually filled the table. I had to get the rack ready, I had to get the decks ready, and then eventually by the time we were full and I was actually ready to deal, I dealt like 3 hands, and then my half hour was over. So I got paid about nothing for that half hour. I would have gotten paid $15 or $20 for dealing the tournament if I'd stayed in the tournament. That happens. There was another time I didn't mention, my lowest amount of tips for a full half hour of dealing. I was dealing limit hold'em, full 30 minutes, dealt, and I got $3 in tips. I wasn't irate, I wasn't yelling at players, I wasn't going slow on purpose. All things I've seen dealers do, I wasn't doing any of that. It averages out. I dealt for 7 weeks, it averages out. That half hour wasn't the end of my life. So to say, some things don't bother me, they are my job, but some things do bother me, they're not part of my job, is what he's implying. That just seemed inconsistent to me, but not nearly as like egregious, outrageous, severe as most of the comments in this mini-series. All right, this video was from a while ago, back in October, when I was playing at the Horseshoe Baltimore. I said there was a guy who was touching the chips of the player next to him, eventually used some vulgar language, eventually got ejected. This was a comment about that video, and here it is. Why do you care who's touching another player's chips? You seem to think you're some sort of authority. Maybe they knew each other, who cares? Okay, in the black, they didn't know each other. The guy who was possibly stealing the chips was friends with someone else at the table. They left together, lost a lot of respect for the friend, because the whole time he was a reasonable guy, and now he's friends with this piece of trash, I learned. Yeah, he did it. The guy who might have been stealing wasn't friends with the potential victim, the guy who was from Europe and barely spoke English. No, they didn't know each other. He would never do this. He would never try to steal chips from someone who spoke English and knew like the rules and what was going on at the poker table. Who cares? If this commenter wants to play in games where people are cheating and stealing, he's free to. I doubt he does, but if he wants to do that, he can. Some sort of authority, I didn't highlight that, but yeah, everyone playing should be on the lookout for cheating, and if you suspect it, say something. Yes, that should be everybody. Dealers, floor people, of course. Players should also be aware of what's cheating and what's not, and should be on the lookout for these things. It's often players who notice other players cheating and bring it to the attention of the employees in the poker room. All right, last one. This is about the dealer who got action out of turn very badly wrong in September, and then made a scene screaming for my phone number in the poker room in Council Bluffs in February. Seems like you're the one still mad. You make 2 videos talking about this one dealer. The whole video, you just want a confrontation. All you do is make up hypotheticals of what this confrontation will be, painting this dealer as the bad guy at the end. He doesn't say anything negative to you at all, and you still act pompous. He made a mistake, get over it, and try to come up with some new content. Okay. It's like going to be the record for how many things were wrong in one comment. Still mad, the one thing he got right. Yes, I wish this dealer, who's also a floor, knew the rules and had any amount of customer service. Yeah, I'm mad about that. It was 1 video, not 2. The first video wasn't about the dealer, it was about the hand. The dealer happened to be the guy who dealt the hand. The second video after he made the scene was about the dealer. So 1 video about the dealer. I actually didn't want a confrontation. I'm not scared of them and I'm good at them, but no, I much would have preferred if he just dealt the hand properly and none of this happened. As it is, I did not give him my phone number. Would have been very easy to give him my phone number and get a confrontation. Also on that final day, when I bought my chips from him and no one was within 15 feet of us, I said nothing. That was me not wanting a confrontation, actually. And it made for a very anticlimactic video. Still, went out of my way to try to avoid a confrontation, but this guy wouldn't be able to be mad if he understood what happened in reality. I actually didn't make up any hypotheticals in the video. I said I was ready for all scenarios, but once you say them out loud, you say them publicly, they lose all their cachet. So I said I was ready, but didn't actually go into any of the specifics, but this guy heard what he wanted to hear. Oh, he said plenty of negative things. I don't know what videos this guy watched. He told everyone who told him the right way to do it that they were wrong, and then he made a scene in the poker room, said plenty of negative things in September and in February, and mistake isn't a good enough word. If when he told the 5 seat's options and was wrong, as soon as the 6 seat told him what the correct options were and he said, oh, I was wrong, that's how you do it, that would have been a mistake. No, this was way more severe than a mistake. And I was actually being very nice to this dealer by not even saying the whole story. I left out the part where during all of this, when this hand happened in September, he accused the 6 seat of trying to cheat 3 times during the hand. The 6 seat had cards when the dealer told the 5 seat's incorrect options, and the 6 seat was the first to say, those aren't his options. He can't call a bet that doesn't exist yet. He has all of his options available to him. The dealer accused the 6 seat of knowing the correct rule, making up a wrong rule, hoping he could induce the dealer to relay this information to the 5 seat in the hope that this street would check through. He said the 6 seat must have cards that he wasn't willing to call a bet, but he wanted to see a free card on the next street. So he was making things up to try to get the wrong rule put into place, increasing the probability that everyone would check and he would get to the river for free. Not at all. The 6 seat used to be a dealer, knows the rule, wanted the hand to happen properly, but the dealer accused him of trying to cheat 3 times in the hand. So if this guy's gonna come to the dealer's rescue, I'll tell the whole story, I'll stop being so nice, and say that in addition to all the things that he did incorrectly, he accused someone of trying to cheat who wasn't. And remember, rice is a spoon food.